Hello, everybody. It's Saturday. Thank you for coming. Thank you to Nick M. And, of course, Crypto Last Outpost. What a great name. Literally, as I'm speaking here, Bitcoin spiked. It hit 98,666 on the nose. I'll prove that to you in a second. But let's get into what happened this week. And I'm only analyzing the first 3.5 days of 2025 of all the news you missed, all the stuff you need to know. And there's some crazy things happening under the hood. And we're going to get into it. So thank you all for coming. Thank you to TD Tesla, Sean Donnelly, and everybody else. This is called Market Insights around, stuff that just happened in basically 2 trading days, as well as some analyst urging everybody to double down on Bitcoin at this stage. Interesting. And this is not financial advice. Thank you all for coming. And thank you to everybody, in Patreon for being here. Let's get into the Bitcoin black hole first before we get into crypto and macro and stocks and everything else. We hit exactly, can't make this number up, 98,666 2 minutes ago. Bang, right there. And I'll keep an eye on price as we're going. It fell off a little bit, 98,550 right now as we speak. But that's a nice number. Well, if you're an Asian culture, you are. If you're a religious, maybe not. I don't know. I prefer the Asian culture interpretation. Let's look at the month of January so far. Now, December was a nightmare for many. Yeah, it was volatile. Yeah, MicroStrategy fell down a little bit. Yeah, there was a little dipperoonie on Tesla as well. But they all rebounded hard yesterday. But so far, I just want to highlight this. December was down 2.5% for Bitcoin. But guess what happened so far in the first 3.5 days of 2025? It's up 4%. In fact, it's up even higher now because this 4% I measured when the price was about 98.2, not 98.5. So it's down a little bit. Charles Tower and SoulStrider, thank you all for coming. But, January typically is, depending on the year you measure, it's a good month. The average returns for January for Bitcoin are 10.5%. Now, if we go back and we look at what's shaped up so far this year, the average returns for September were 5% negative, but we had 7.5% this September. Remember, we're in a bull run. October, 11.3% versus the average 15%, slightly under average. The November return, 41.6%. We had 40%. Unbelievable. And December, a little bit flat. So we're overdue for a positive month, and the average returns for January, February, and March are very good, and April even crazier. The first half of the year is pretty obscenely good. So we'll see where we go. Now, there's a lot of things under the hood that are happening that tell me, 2025 could continue to be good. Let's look at some of that. First of all, VanEck urges, this is the second time we've seen these analysts really urge people, and they recommend that investors should maintain or increase as quickly as possible their exposure to Bitcoin. And their recommendation is based on asset roles as hedges against inflation, fiscal uncertainty, global de-dollarization, etc. And they pointed out that Bitcoin serves as a resilient store of value during economic turbulence. That's one of the reasons why central banks are buying gold right now, because they don't know what Bitcoin is yet. But there's rumors now that China might be looking at Bitcoin hard as well. Anyway, VanEck as well I think their price targets is somewhere between 150 and 170 this year, 170K. And that's supported by views from other analysts. We have Jeffrey Kendrick from Standard & Chartered. He sees it going to 200K. We've got Tom Lee, 250K. BlackRock urging people to allocate to Bitcoin as well. Again, lots of goodness happening out there in the marketplace. And it's the weekend, and weekend is when things typically pump. We used to get the pump on Sundays. Now sometimes we get it on Saturdays, like now as we speak. But let's see. And remember, Bitcoin is a cure. I saw this little graphic today. And somewhere I was reading, I forget where I pulled it from. Apologies for that. But Bitcoin is a cure. Did you know? Central bank money printing causes inflation that destroys purchasing power, savings, and wages. Bitcoin is the cure for this money problem. I thought it was cute. It's like a legacy pharmaceutical advertisement, but for Bitcoin. No drugs, drug-free zone here. Anyway, another crazy news too, and this all happened literally in the last 4 days. Dennis Porter, he announces a lot of stuff. But he said at Michael Saylor's event 4 days ago that It is guaranteed that at least one US state will be buying Bitcoin in the next 16 weeks. Guaranteed. And he expressed further optimism around others. And there are 10 states, maybe up to 12, that are going to introduce a strategic Bitcoin reserve legislation. These are states. If you take states like California, that's the 5th largest economy in the world, measured by GDP. You've got states like Florida, number 14, I think. States like Texas, right behind California right now. Huge. These American states are actually like massive countries. And Porter assured as well that it can happen very fast. In fact, we already believes, of whatever that state is. I'm not sure if it's Texas or Pennsylvania or one of those, Wyoming, but they're going to do it. And he is putting his reputation on the line by saying it's 100% guaranteed in the next 16 weeks. And that's what we're looking for, because that will trigger the dominoes to fall. And then we know what happens after that. Let's look at what happened as well. A very bizarre surprise for me when I was analyzing the ETF flows last night. All of a sudden, I realized, holy smokes, the ETFs on Friday, which is normally a quiet day for the ETFs. They don't bag a lot on Fridays. They bag early in the week, not on Fridays. Well, they had the 5th biggest day ever from 248 trading days. Basically, it's about 252 trading days in the year. 248 takes us back to January 11th, 2024 when it started. This was January 3rd, 2025. So basically call it nearly a year. 5th biggest day ever, pulling in over $900 million completely by surprise. And if you look at the day before, BlackRock dumped about $300 million, their biggest dump ever. But apparently that was because of wash sale trading rules. People have to they can't buy and sell the same day, but they have to wait 30 days before they get back in or get out or whatever, take profits. And that's probably what happened there. Anyway, it doesn't matter because BlackRock bought a big ton yesterday. And Fidelity, I think it was Fidelity, brought in like over $500 million in a day. One of their biggest days ever too. And so far, we've only had 2 trading days so far in 2025, but these ETFs have pulled in 6,750 Bitcoin in 2 days. Remember, only 450 Bitcoin are issued a day. My question is, where's all this Bitcoin going to come from? I don't know. And another news too, regarding the US spot ETFs, Grayscale continues to bleed out. That's the red negative stuff. They bled hard Jan, Feb, March, April, July, and bleeding hard again in December. We'll see what happens, but it's nearly drained anyway. All the money has been sucked in to BlackRock, and number 2 is Fidelity. And that's all she wrote regarding that. Bitcoin's back up at 98.6 as we speak. Could we hit 100K? Well, Bitcoin hit 16 years old yesterday. We celebrated that a little bit with a dedicated slide. Now, let's look at some metrics for Bitcoin before we jump into other news too. The market structure still looks very bullish. This is a crypto quant chart. And you can see here, there are no clear signs. There are no signs whatsoever of the Bitcoin market being in any way overheated. But we need more volume to drive a big leg up, i.e. to get above 110K. So we're waiting for the market to recover from the holiday season. But boy, did elements recover yesterday. Again, the ETFs. Not sure what triggered that over $900 million day. Pretty massive. But one thing we are sure of is these plays are not retail investors. Somebody big is buying behind the scenes, and this is also apparent on chain. This is from Axel Adler, and it shows you the Bitcoin top 10 exchange large transaction dominance. The top 10 large transactions on exchanges dominate the market. They account for 94.5% of the total volume compared to all other transactions. My Sharona, I love that song. Great name. Thank you so much in Australia. However, if you look at the mid-cycle, whales tend to sell their coins. And as the cycle approaches its peak, the dominance of large players in the exchange market decreases. But what's happening now? The big players are in, which means we are nowhere near the top, the cycle peak, as they say. And this pattern was also observed at the 35 to 70K levels. And currently, the dominance of large transactions is 1% higher than the 10-year average. So again, we're not overheated. The whales are fully in control. And they're controlling the volume, nearly 95% of it too. So it's crazy. Now, there is another little piece in news too. This is short-term holder MVRV. score here, and this year is from Glassnode. This year we've seen key levels around 1.44 peak in March, and then falling down to 0.8 at the September local bottom. Remember that? The first week of September was rough, and then we spiked after that. And we had another 1.35 peak in November, but nowhere near the March peak. And the 1.0 level acts as support during uptrends and bull markets, and can flip into resistance if decisively broken, signaling a shift in sentiment. We are still above it, so again, not to worry right now. Bitcoin 98.7. Wow, imagine if we had 100K on this stream. I will not be having my second whiskey ever. I promise you that. That was a one and done. I don't like the stuff. Ugh. Now, there's other weird news too. Lots of exchanges are net short Bitcoin. You can see here, green is long and red is short. So you can see the dominance on Binance, heavy short. You look at BitMEX, extremely short, 64.35% short. So this is kind of unusual, where most people are either hedging or expect a downturn. But the people that are playing on these exchanges do not know what's going on behind the scenes. Again, the whales are in control, not these players here. Unless, of course, the whales are hedging their bets right now. We shall see. But this is interesting. And the reason I care about this is it could shape up for a nice, again, bullish impulse if there's a short squeeze. Like if we spike above 100K, these shorts have to cover fast, which could take us to 105K pretty quickly as well. And another bullish sign as well, shout out to Crypto Rover, who shared this today. This is the Bitcoin exchange reserve on all exchanges. And I know the chart looks a bit startling, but we have come down from about 3.35 million Bitcoin on exchanges as of middle of July 2022. And that's fallen all the way down to about 2.3 million. So 1.05 million Bitcoin have left exchanges over the past 2 years and change, which is pretty drastic. And what's interesting as well, when you observe the chart, even though you can play with scales and stuff, left and right axes, but obviously the less Bitcoin on exchanges, the more the price rises. And that's a simple, crude way of showing the laws of supply and demand very full in operation. Now, let me know if you want. I've got all this material for a great real estate video, but nobody's really interested in real estate. But I think what's really interesting is this. A little bit of formatting problem on my own on Saturdays. But this should be the Australian home prices, and it's overwritten. But I'll just walk you through. Just look at the orange line here. What's stunning is Australian house price chart in Bitcoin terms updated for December 2024. The median price of a home has dropped significantly from 9.3 Bitcoin last quarter, Q3 of 2024 in Australia, to 5.1 Bitcoin. That's nearly doubling. So again, if you're thinking about buying a house in Australia and you got 10 Bitcoin, if you just waited 12 weeks, you could have deployed half your Bitcoin to get a house. Think about that. That's just incredible. Incredible move. In a quarter, 12 weeks. 12 weeks. Real estate doesn't move that fast at all. And real estate is expensive in Australia. But Bitcoin is even more powerful than that too. Now, another kind of good news. US now owns 40% of the Bitcoin hash rate. The market share of Bitcoin mining pools just eclipsed 40%, which is an all-time high. Back in the day, it was all China. China were nearly 90%. And now it's beginning to flip. And much of this is driven by large public miners like Marathon. So good news to the Bitcoin miners. And in other news too, this is kind of interesting. It just came across my radar. The Ethereum Layer 2 performance of 2024 was pretty horrific. There's a reason we don't touch Layer 2s and haven't done so in years, since 2021. But Arbitrum down 54% for the year. Optimism down 53% of the year. Matic down 54% of the year. And Blast 85% for the year. If you were in ETH and ETH Layer 2s, you left a lot of money on the table. So what's going on? As I say here, they're all being debased by Base. Base, the Coinbase private level Layer 2 on Ethereum. Again, you cannot buy the token, so don't get too excited about it, everybody. Anyway, ETH still doesn't have a North Star, doesn't know where it's going. It has no mission. There's toys in the attic. Will it ever recover? No. My opinion has been the same for years. Anyway, sorry for the ETH bag holders. It'll do okay. The ETH ETF will help it a lot, but it's not going to perform like other names. Now, this is a cool little survey done by Blockworks, which takes us back to base as well. Blockworks surveyed 42 Solana founders, and here's what they asked them. They said, if you had to build on a blockchain besides Solana, which one would you choose? The number one response was Base. Number 2 is Sui. Number 3 was Morad. Number 4, Bearchain. You don't see anything there, and surprisingly, number 6 is Bitcoin, and then Near. But you don't, and then Ethereum down the bottom of the list with Tron, etc. This is so important. Again, these are developers on Solana asked if they weren't allowed to develop on Solana, what would they build on? Base, number 1. Base, number 1. Pretty incredible. And Sui, number 2. Sui is my alt L1 as well. That's it. The rest are Sol alts. That's my whole crypto bag. And Bitcoin, of course, and Bitcoin proxies. Lots of Bitcoin proxies. In fact, too many. Anyway, we'll ration them back during 2025. I promise you that. Anyway, that was a cool little piece of information which ties into why the layer 2s on ETH are being completely debased by Base, excuse the pun. I thought that was funny. There was another set of questions that was really answered, and I find this so important because I'm always trying to chase the top crypto use cases. What is most important? Is it DEXs? Is it stablecoins? Is it payments, etc.? Here, this is a beautiful summary of what are the most underrated Solana sectors. Again, from these 42 founders, only 41 responded. One of them didn't have an answer. But payments was the most underrated. And payments will explode. That is how the world will adopt crypto, because they need to move money. If you are in the Philippines and need to move money to the US, or in the US, move money to the Philippines, etc., this is how you're going to do it. So you don't give 30% to Western unions of the world. Number 2 is DPIN. Very underrated and very powerful. And number 3, stablecoins. Number 4 is Blinks. I remember doing a video on Blinks. I thought it was kind of very, very interesting concept. And down the list, number 5 is meme coins. Nobody cares. Gaming as well. DeSci. DeSci, though, is bigger than AI agents, which is interesting because I think the question, the way you frame it here, is the most underrated. So AI agents are already very highly rated, but the things that they're ignoring, again, are payments, DPIN, etc., which I thought was fascinating. Now, getting back to Sui, this is, crypto is not logic. It's full of pumpers and shillers. I focus on data, and that helps me pick the right assets. And I don't care if it's a Tesla or a space program or a drug maker or whatever. I tend to focus just on disruption, though. But here you see Sui has just leapfrogged both Toncoin, which is part of Telegram, and Chainlink up to number 12. Avalanche has had a miserable year last year. I think they were negative for 2024. Again, I don't look at them. And then Tron is a big stablecoin play. Again, big use case, top 3 use case for crypto. And then Cardano is number 9. Now, first of all, I'm going to make a little brave little guess here. Sui has to leapfrog Cardano. It's kind of like 2021. I said, it makes no mathematical sense that Cardano has a higher market cap than Solana. It makes no sense whatsoever. And Charles Hoskinson took the pleasure of insulting me online and mocking me. I was like, that's special. Guy has so much time he can spend trolling me on the internet. Fair enough. I don't care. I just look at data. But now my next claim is, yes, Sui will leapfrog Cardano. Now, using some very crude mathematics, it puzzles me that Sui is only a third of the market cap of Cardano. Now, if Sui reaches the Cardano market cap, this reminds me, my Sol upside TA chart? I think I'm going to build one for Sui upside. Watch this space. Anyway, if that's the case, what price would Sui be trading at? I think that would be about, 40 divided by 15 is about 2.7 times the price, $5.15. It'd be about $14. Target, if logical. Somebody asked me this morning in Patreon, how high could Sui go? I said at least $10. Now I'll say at least $14. If markets remain rational. Shout out to Marty Party as well. Anyway, Let's look at some numbers. Let's see how they compare. SUI versus Cardano. Mind-boggling. Transactions alone. SUI does 70 times more transactions. Okay. 5.5 million versus Cardano 79,000. And the people on the chain do a lot more every single day. And the average fees are at 23rd. And the daily transactions fees are 3-4x higher. And the chart DEX volume is 60x higher. So that's, it trades at a third of the market cap, but it does 70 times more stuff. Mathematics, that's all we do here. Take it or leave it. I don't care. Anyway, let's get back to the stock market. Now that we've done crypto. Stock market bears are running out of fuel. This is a cool chart. We talk sometimes about fear and greed in crypto and also in the stock market, but you can see here, the fear and greed has been very, very low, and we've got 3 big dips so far in 2024. April 2024, August 2024. That August dip, by the way, happened on the 5th of August during the Japan carry trade reversal. Big problem. And now we're back again. So the good news is, when fear and greed is so low, stock market is so fearful, guess what happens next? Yeah, it goes up. It mean reverts. So we could be through the dark clouds of the stock market. And we had big moves in stocks like MicroStrategy and Tesla on Friday, I should say, this week. But this came out as well. Shout out to Herbert, part of his Cyberbulls team for Tesla. But this guy, it was from Son of Wookie, quoting a piece from the Herbert video. The chief investment officer, Keith Fitzgerald, says Tesla is headed to $20 trillion. He says Tesla today is like Apple in 2014. What happened to Apple in 2014? If I had it with me, I'd show it to you. It's an iPhone. I don't look at my phone, don't answer my phone, don't even know where my phone is most of the time. But that is fascinating. Now, I hear you asking, okay, 20 trillion market cap, what's the price? Well, it's written on the slide. So $6,060. And remember, you could have bought Tesla at 375 this week, 2 days ago. Now it's already 411 in after hours. So when you see those dips, when you see a dip on Tesla, buy it. That's it. You know, gurus like this are saying it's going to 6,000. I tell people it's definitely going to 2,000 in the next 3 to 4 years. This guy says it's going to 6,000 in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, so buying something at $300, $400, it's going to $6,000. That's a 15x. Pretty good return. Not bad at all. Sig Div, thank you for coming. Now, what else is going on? Chamath was talking about ICE car makers. And this is from Matthew Donegan Ryan. And one of the cool, profound things that Chamath has said is ICE cars are uninvestable. In fact, if you watch this channel, you know I've been planning my shorts on ICE car makers for quite some time. But before they die, they go out with a whimper, and sometimes the stock price spikes. So you got to wait for that. And then you go short because they're all going to bleed out. But they're going to bleed out very fast. Elon mentioned it as well last week, that towards the end of 2025, we're going to see a massive, almost like massacre in this space. Nobody is going to be buying a dumb car. Nobody. If you do, you're going to waste your investment because it'll be worth nothing in 2 or 3 years. Okay? Nothing. It's be like buying a Range Rover or something like that. No offense to Range Rovers, but they depreciate very fast. Anyhow, and sorry for the petrol heads. I'm also a petrol head myself, so I'm mocking myself too. But Chamath predicts that 2025 will be a reckoning year for legacy OEMs, and that basically anybody who is run by unions and is a legacy car maker is going to be sandwiched in between the Chinese BEV makers and Tesla, and that's it. China have the price advantage, Tesla have the technology advantage. Nothing else will survive. And we're already seeing the scrambling now between, is it Nissan with another Japanese Mitsubishi and somebody else, 3 dogs that fleas all coming together trying to survive. And that does not solve the problem. That just increases the headache. You never see, like when companies merge or when companies rebrand, it's a big red flag. Remember that. It's very simple. 35 years of observing markets. That's the pattern I've always seen, and it always works too. Final piece of news. Shout out to our friends in Germany. But this is a little bit of sad news. And remember, before I walk you through this, remember the amount of energy a nation produces is directly correlated to the GDP per capita. Energy is money in Bitcoin, in oil, in everything else, okay? Think of energy and money. But when you have a major economy like Germany, and this is from Mark Nelson, Germany's electricity production is falling. This is not good. Generation in 2024 was lower than any year since reunification. Thank you, Greta, for shutting down the nuclear power plants in Germany. You've single-handedly put a big dent in German GDP. It'll follow. Watch. But Germany needs to fix things fast. Turn on those nuclear reactors once more. And reduce your dependency on you-know-who for other energy too. That's the story. Tomorrow's live Q&A at 12 noon Pacific, which is 23 hours from now, which I'm going to go work on. Hope you enjoyed the show. Let's check on the Bitcoin price. It fell down a little bit, 98.6. But again, it's the weekend. Let's see if we get our weekend pump like usual. Thank you, TND Tesla, Sean Donnelly, and everybody else in the community here. Have a great weekend. Go and touch the grass, as they say. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye.